responses. Census data is used by policymakers, community groups, businesses, and individuals to make decisions that better serve you. And not to worry, your information is safe. We combine data encryption network security equipment to prevent unauthorized access to census information. You count, me count, all of we count. So cooperate when the census takers come to you.
Census.
Census!
Watch a count, yeah. Wonder what I count, yeah. Hey, you count, me count. Census say all of we count. Hey, you count, me count. Census say all of we count. Information needed to develop the community. Them scouts them out and I get the reports, so don't bother hide when you see them. Yeah, we are gonna start from east. Hey, then we reach a west. Hey, the process easy. Yo, please don't stress, cause guess what? Me count, you count. Census say all of we count. Hey, you count, me count. Census say all of we count. Hey, you count, me count. Census say all of we count. Hey, you count, me count. Census say all of we count. Hey.
Give me some views. This is the Census 2022. Remember, we use this information for the community and national development. Census 2022.
Good morning, members of the media, other invited guests, our viewers across our social media platforms. Welcome to the Statistical Institute of Jamaica's quarterly press briefing. My name is Georgia Garvey-Green. Today, our Director General, Ms. Carol Coy, will be taking us through some of the key indicators from our most recent monthly and quarterly surveys. Ms. Coy will also provide an update on the population and housing census. For the Q&A segment, Ms. Coy will be supported by Ms. Jessica Campbell, Director of the Research, Design and Evaluation Division, and Mrs. Shellyan Chambers, Unit Head in the Price Indices and Analysis Unit of the Administrative Statistics Division. I now invite Ms. Coy to commence her presentation.
Thank you, Mrs. Garvey-Green. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining our virtual press briefing. In keeping with the Institute's schedule, we are releasing the July 2023 Consumer Price Index, the International Merchandise Trade Statistics for the period January to April 2023, and the April 2023 Labor Force Survey. I will also provide an update on the population and housing census. I will start with the population and housing census. This is an extensive project conducted every 10 years that provides important information on the population, demographic and socio-economic conditions, and housing stock of Jamaica. Operations in the post-pandemic environment had administrative challenges, unlike previous censuses. One such challenge was the incorporation of online processes for activities which were previously face-to-face, such as training. However, the Institute quickly adapted, and most administrative issues were resolved, and we continue to address concerns as they arise. It should be noted that the issues facing this census in this post-pandemic environment are not unique to Jamaica, as several countries across the region have faced significant challenges in executing the 2020 round of censuses. One of the main challenges facing us was the recruitment and the high levels of attrition of census workers. As unemployment rates decline, persons are less inclined to take up more strenuous and short-term jobs like data collection. In addition to our initial recruitment drive, secondary recruitment efforts were targeted in areas without census workers. A significant number of persons indicated that they were either no longer interested, they found other means of employment, or they deemed that the work would be too hard, and some persons actually failed the minimum training requirements. To mitigate the impact caused by the shortage of census field workers, STATIN has employed several strategies, aimed at increasing the rate of data collection. These include the introduction of teams comprised of experienced and efficient data collectors in targeted areas to quickly canvass an enumeration district, the deployment of web questionnaires, and an abbreviated version, or what we call the short form, of the census questionnaires. These measures may impact the level of disaggregation of certain indicators. However, the reliability of the population count will not be compromised. To protect the integrity of the results from this highly important data gathering activity, the Institute, supported by our international development partners, will deploy all available tools in preserving key indicators. We will also undertake additional data validation exercises using more complex statistical techniques and additional data sources. Concerns have also been raised by some census workers regarding remuneration. STATIN recognizes these concerns and has instituted measures to ensure that the data collection staff are compensated in a timely manner. This, however, must be balanced by the fact that the data collected must be of a standard that will provide credible data for policymakers, planners, and the general public. Payment for work done is based on the approval of census questionnaires. This is a two-step process. A critical component of the supervisor's job function is a review of the questionnaire to ensure the quality of the work undertaken by the census taker. If issues are found, the questionnaire is returned to the census taker for corrections. Once the supervisor is satisfied with the questionnaire, it is submitted to the census office for review and final approval. At this point, the questionnaire can be returned if it does not meet the quality criteria for completion. In addition, census takers are also required to submit the visitation record, which is the listing of all buildings within the ED. This forms part of the quality check for data collection. All census workers were advised of the criteria for payment as per their employment contract. We encourage data collection staff to correct and return rejected questionnaires and submit their VR with all buildings within the ED listed correctly in a timely manner, as this will speed up the payment process. STATIN workers with queries are also encouraged to utilize the channels that have been established to raise their concerns. The primary focus for STATIN at this point is the wrapping up of the data collection phase, with emphasis on ensuring that adequate data are available to provide sound estimates of the population count and key population and household indicators. We want to use this opportunity to thank all census workers for their diligence, patience, and understanding since the project began, and to thank members of the Jamaican population who have made and continue to make themselves available to respond to the questionnaires, to the census takers. Census takers are still deployed island-wide, so we therefore encourage your cooperation in responding to the questionnaires. I will now turn to the July 2023 Consumer Price Index. The July 2023 CPI was 130.8 compared to 129.5 for the previous month. This resulted in an inflation rate of 1.1%. Influencing the inflation rate was a 2.3% increase in the index for the heaviest weighted division, food and non-alcoholic beverages. The rise in the index for the food and non-alcoholic beverages division resulted mainly from a 9.9% increase in the index for the class vegetables, tubers, plantains, cooking bananas, and pulses. The prevailing drought conditions continue to adversely affect the supply of agricultural produce, such as cabbage, Irish potato, tomato, sweet pepper, and yellow yam, resulting in consumers paying higher prices for these items. The inflation rate was also impacted by a 0.5% increase in the index for the division housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels, due mainly to higher electricity, water, and sewage rates. Of note, the index for the division recreation, sport, and culture increased by 0.4%. This was mainly impacted by a 0.5% increase in the index for the group newspaper, books, and stationery due to higher prices for books and stationery supplies. The point-to-point inflation rate was 6.6% when the index for July 2023 was compared to that of July 2022. This was mainly attributed to increases in the index for the divisions food and non-alcoholic beverages, which increased by 11.3%, restaurants and accommodation services, which went up by 12.4%, furnishings, household equipment, and routine household maintenance, which went up by 11.3%, and housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels, which increased by 1.4%. I will now turn to the April to January 2023 international merchandise trade statistics. Expenditure on imports from January to April 2023 amounted to $2.4 billion US. This was an increase of 5.8% compared to the similar period in 2022. This increase was due to higher imports of raw materials, intermediate goods, consumer goods, capital goods excluding motor cars, and transport equipment. However, fuel and lubricants declined by 9.7%, due mainly to a 38% decline in the imports of crude oil. Total exports for the January to April 2023 period were valued at $677.5 million US, 32% above the amount earned in the comparable 2022 period. This was primarily due to a 21.6% increase in the value of mineral fuels. Domestic exports, which accounted for 75.7% of total exports, grew by 16.3% due to increased earnings from the mining and quarrying and agriculture industries. Exports from the mining and quarrying industries were valued at $165.3 million, an increase of $81.3 million. This was due to a 142.3% rise in alumina earnings. Earnings from the agriculture industry increased by 3.4%, due primarily to higher exports of yams. I will now turn to the April 2023 labor force survey. As previously communicated, the October 2022 and the January 2023 labor force surveys were not conducted as STATIN focused on data collection for the national census. Today's release highlights the findings of the April 2023 labor force survey. There were 1,373,800 persons in the labor force, and this is an increase of 1.7%, primarily as a result of an increase in the number of females in the labor force. The number of persons in the employed in April 2023 increased by 43,300, or 3.4%, compared to April 2022. Females accounted for over 2/3 of this increase. Employed females grew by 5.1%, or 29,700, while employed males increased by 2%, or 13,600. The largest increase in employment was in the industry group, real estate and other business services, while the occupation group, service workers, and shop and market sales workers recorded the largest increase in employment. There was also increased employment in all age groups. Now I look at the employed labor force by industry group, and as I said, the largest increase in employment in industry, 15,300, was in the group real estate and other business services, and this group includes the BPOs. Females accounted for most of the increase in this industry, with 10,900 additional females employed. The second highest increase was observed in the industry group wholesale and retail trade, repair of motor vehicles and motorcycles, and this industry increased by 5.5% to 249,800 persons. Similarly, females accounted for most of the increase, that is 73.3% of the increase. These two industries accounted for 2/3 or 65.6% of the increase in employment. There were 7,500 more persons employed in the group accommodation and food service activities when compared to April 2022. This increase, however, was wholly males. Despite the increase in employment across most industry groups, there was a downturn in the numbers employed in the agriculture, forestry, and fishing industry. In April 2023, there were 7,800 or 4.1% less persons working in this industry compared to the same quarter in 2022. I'll now look at the employed labor force by occupation group. The largest increase in the employed labor force by occupation group was in the group service workers and shop and market sales. There were 311,600 persons employed in this occupation group, and this was an increase of 9.8%. Male employment within this occupation group increased by 11,000 or 10.7%, while females increased by 16,700 or 9.2%. The number of employed persons in the group elementary occupations was 173,100, an increase of 8%. Importantly, females accounted for most of the increase within both of these occupation groups. In the service workers, shop and market sales workers, females accounted for 60.3% of the increase, and in the elementary occupations, females accounted for 57% increase. Like the group agriculture industry, there was a notable decline in the number of persons working in the skilled agriculture and fishery workers. This declined by 5.6% when compared to the similar quarter in 2022. I will now turn to unemployment. Unemployment in April 2023, there were 61,300 unemployed persons, and this was 19,700 less compared to April 2022. This was influenced by the fall in the number of unemployed females. The unemployment rate in April 2023 was 4.5%, and this was 1.5 percentage points lower than the same quarter in 2022. The unemployment rate moved down for both males and females. The male unemployment rate was 3.4%, while the unemployment rate for females was 5.7%. Looking at youth unemployment rate, the youth unemployment rate was 12.2%, a decline of 3.3 percentage points relative to April 2022. Female youth unemployment was 12.3%, while that for male was 12%. Similar to the other labor market indicators, the youth unemployment rate was influenced by the decline in female unemployment. Looking at outside the labor force, and this is persons 14 years and older who are neither employed nor unemployed, and these are classified as outside of the labor force. In April 2023, there were 725,700 persons outside of the labor force. Males outside the labor force declined by 1.2%, while females declined by 3.9%. To summarize the labor force indicators, the labor force increased by 1.7%, primarily as a result of the increase in the number of females. The number of persons employed in April 2023 increased by 3.4% to 1.3 million persons, and the unemployment rate for April 2023 was 4.5%, 1.5 percentage points lower than the 6% in the similar period in 2022. In closing, STATIN thanks all respondents for their participation in our households and business surveys. Your continued participation ensures that data are available to inform decision making. A special thank you also to the respective ministries, departments, and agencies for making administrative records available for the compilation of statistics. The public can rest assured that the information provided to the Institute is kept in the strictest confidence, and STATIN remains committed to producing quality official statistics. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Coy, for that in-depth presentation. I will now take the questions from the persons online. You can use the raised icon feature, hand icon feature, and identify yourself. Just a quick check, I think there are there any questions? Okay, so we have one question from Nika Lewis. You can go ahead, Nika.
Thank you. Nika Lewis from CVM TV. I'm aware that there were some concerns raised about remuneration for census takers or data collection officers. I don't know how you classify them again. However, something I observed and I discussed with a few of them who I've encountered was pertaining to the apartment buildings. I noticed that they needed, for example, permission to access certain spaces. And in some instances, they had to return multiple times to a particular location, for example, because they needed a special form to access these entities or these locations. What I also observed, and I'm not sure if you can address that for me, is that when they do access some of these locations, it's not like they are sure that they're going to get anybody on the premises, because sometimes it's multiple families, multiple dwellings, and that's just one less than 5 minutes apart from one house that would have been a single family residence, for example. Was that something that was factored into this year's census? That's really what I want to know.
All right, thank you very much, Nika. That question will be for Ms. Coy.
Okay, Nika, we are aware of the multiple dwellings and access to them. We provided what we would have done. We made provisions for this. So when the census taker sees a dwelling, which is a multiple dwelling, such as an apartment building or a gated community, then the census taker is required to get in touch with their supervisor. And what STATIN does, we provide letters. We try and make that first approach to the building. So we try to get to the building managers, to the strata corporation, to get access into the building. So we are aware of that, and we have put in. So what the census taker would do is to get in touch with either their supervisor or their area coordinate, area managers, so that we can make these arrangements for them.
All right, thank you very much. Javon Keys.
Good morning, everyone. I might have missed it at the start, but I just wanted to get a timeline regarding the when you expect to complete the data collection portion of the census, and what's the cost of this overrun? What's the cost to taxpayers of this extended period of data collection now based on the delays?
Thank you very much, Javon. Ms. Coy?
Okay, Javon, at this point, as I would have said in my press brief, the focus for STATIN, and we know we have overrun what was the original data collection period. The focus now for us is to get the data collection wrapped up. So we will not be releasing a date because our focus is to look at the constituencies and to see the proportion of EDs that have been covered, and what we have put in, as I mentioned before, things like the short form, the shortened questionnaire, and what this allows the census taker to do is to move much faster. So our focus at this time is to wrap up data collection to ensure that the population count, we get enough information to come out with a credible population count. With regards to the budget for the census for this year was, as you would have known, is about $2.4 billion. The significant portion of the budget is data collection to pay the census takers and supervisors. Now, they are paid per questionnaire that they would have completed. So the budget was made up based on the number of questionnaires completed. So even if we have extended the data collection period, that would not impact the overrun on the budget because it's a number. We estimated so many persons living in Jamaica, so therefore this is what the budget would have been built on, and not on the number of census takers or the length of time they spend in the field. I hope that answers your question, and we are still under budget.
Okay, understood. But if I may, a quick follow-up. Are you able to say the percentage of the country that's been covered so far and what's left?
No, we normally at this point, because the percentage varies, and the issue is that you can be in an ED. So if I can say to you so many EDs, but you might be in the ED and the ED is not yet completed. So at this point, what STATIN does, when we have completed with the count, we will provide the numbers that we have estimated and the numbers that were counted at that point. That is when STATIN usually releases information when the data has been analyzed and processed.
All right, Javon, thanks for those questions.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Karina Bennett.
Morning, everyone. Just a quick follow-up on Javon's question. I just wanted to get a sense of if the initial completion date on the consensus was disclosed before, and if so, what was that initial date? And also to get if you could expound on the real estate and other businesses that fall under that. You said it includes BPO, but what other businesses does that include? For the job markets, the labor survey.
Okay, we had an original date of, I think we had extended the date to March 2023, and that was the last date that we had announced for the census completion.
Okay.
With regards to, I think you're talking about the labor force and the yes. Industry where we had the largest increase, real estate and business services. The business, it includes, as it says, the real estate market, and the business services would be things like, as I said, BPOs, consultants, security industry, accounting, legal. So it's that wide range of business services that would be included there.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Karina. Alicia Smith.
Good morning. I wanted to find out, in light of the recruitment challenges, how many census takers are currently in the field? And could you say what their pay is like?
I think the last time I gave a figure, Karina, it would be about, I think, maybe about 4,000. It might be, we have done some recruitment. The issue for us is that attrition goes on. So I'll have a figure today, but there's attrition as we go on. So the figure will fluctuate as we move up. So we have recognized that there's a shortfall in our employment numbers, and this is why we have instituted these. With regards to the payment, I don't have the payment, but it was published, and we will send it. It was published in the newspapers. It was also published. It's a legal requirement, and it was published, but I don't have the figures immediately with me. The census takers, however, are aware because they were advised of the increase of what the new rates would be.
All right, thanks very much, Alicia. Javon, I think your hand is still up. Do you have another question, or did you just forget to lower it? All right, Javon, your hand is still up. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Sorry, that was an old.
Oh, no problem. Are there any other questions before we close out?
Well, sure. Ms. Coy, I guess this is a juncture where we say thank you so much for your service. I saw that there was an advertisement for a new Director General. I wanted to find out the progress of that.
The choice of the Director General lies with the Minister of Finance, so any comment on that I would leave to the Minister.
All right, no problem. But again, thank you for your service, Ms. Coy.
Thanks very much, Devon. All right, no question on social media? All right. Okay, thank you everyone for joining our quarterly press briefing. We will be sending out the script and the usual press releases and bulletin as scheduled. You can also visit our website for updates on the key indicators, and we encourage persons to call our library or send us an email at info@statinja.gov.jm in the event that you have any questions or need any further clarification. So once more, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you at our next press briefing. Thanks.
Is used by policymakers, community groups, businesses, and individuals to make decisions that better serve you. And not to worry, your information is safe. We combine data encryption network security equipment to prevent unauthorized access to census information. You count, me count, all we count. So cooperate when the census takers come to you. Soon, a census worker will be coming to you. Verify their identity by visiting our website and be accurate and honest in your responses. Census data is used by policymakers, community groups, businesses, and individuals to make decisions that better serve you. And not to worry, your information is safe. We combine data encryption network security equipment to prevent unauthorized access to census information. You count, me count, all we count. So cooperate when the census takers come to you.
Wonder what I count, yeah. Hey, you count, me count. Census say all of we count. Hey, you count, me count. Census say all of we count. Information needed to develop the community. Them. bounce them out and I get the report, so nobody hide when you see them. Yeah, we are gonna start from east, hey, then we reach a west, hey, the process easy. Yo, please don't stress, cause guess what? Me count, you count, census say all of we count, hey, you count, me count, census say all of we count, hey, you count, me count, census say all of we count, hey, you count, me count, census say all of we count, hey.